In the darkness of the Forbidden Belt, they see hundreds of silent ships, all human designs, floating but powered. When they scan them, energy readings come back alive. The ships were only sleeping. A human voice broadcasts across the void. "You have walked in the path of the Makers." The alien crew trembles. The voice continues, "Now you will see what we left behind." Colossal structure begins to awaken beneath them like a world-sized engine. Asterisk. The sky above the ancient planet was covered in silver clouds that never moved. The alien ship, the Verex, broke through the silent atmosphere, its engines humming softly against the still air. Commander Verex stood near the observation window, staring down at the ruins below. He had traveled through hundreds of worlds, but never seen anything like this. The structures on the planet's surface were massive, built from black stone and metal that shimmered faintly in the light. There were towers shaped like blades and wide bridges stretching across deep cracks in the land. Everything was silent, as if the world had been holding its breath for 1,000 years. Varric's second officer, Rinnell, approached carefully. "Commander, scans show strange energy readings," he said. "The materials are old, very old. Older than the Empire itself." Varric frowned. That was impossible. The Zelthar Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Nothing was older than their civilization, at least. That was what history claimed. The ship landed in a wide open area near what looked like a broken city. The team stepped out in silver suits that glowed faintly in the mist. The air was heavy, but breathable. A strange silence hung over the place, and even the wind made no sound. Their boots echoed faintly against the stone, and each step felt louder than it should have. "Keep your scanners active," Varric ordered. "I want every wall, every symbol, every mark recorded." The crew nodded and began to move through the ruins. Broken pillars rose high above them, carved with strange lines that seemed to twist when you stared too long. The air smelled of dust and something old, something alive. One of the younger crew members, Sral, stopped near a fallen statue. It was half buried under rock, the face hidden by shadow. She brushed the dust away and froze. "Commander, you need to see this." Varric walked closer, his footsteps slow. When the dust cleared, the statue's face was revealed. It was not alien. The figure was tall, with a strong jaw, 2 eyes, and a strange kind of sadness carved into its stone face. It looked human. For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of the wind finally began to whisper through the ruins, soft and cold. Rinnell let out a nervous laugh. "That can't be real? Humans? They're primitive creatures, still trapped on their homeworld." Varric's eyes stayed on the statue. "Then how," he said quietly, "did they build this?" Sira pointed to the base of the statue. There were words carved there, covered in dust and scratches. She cleaned the surface with her glove, and the letters glowed faintly under the scanner light. It read, "Earth." The word felt heavy in the air, as if the planet itself remembered it. They moved deeper into the city. The structures were huge, built for beings taller than any alien they knew. Strange writing covered the walls, some of it glowing faintly when they passed. One of the scientists scanned it and shook his head. "This isn't any language in our database," he said softly, "but some of the patterns match human signal codes from the ancient archives." The deeper they went, the colder it became. The temperature dropped without warning, their breath misting inside their helmets. At the end of a long tunnel, they found a massive door made of dark metal. It had no handle, no keyhole, a circular panel in the center that pulsed faintly. Like a heartbeat, Varric touched it carefully, and the surface lit up, spreading rings of light outward. "What kind of lock is this?" Rinnell asked. The scientist studied the readings and frowned. "Commander, it's reacting to biosignatures, but not ours. It's waiting for something specific, something with a human heartbeat." The crew looked at one another, uneasy. "That's not possible," Sira whispered. "Humans can't be here. They never even left their system." Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled slightly. The door began to hum. Then, slowly, it opened. None of them had touched it. Inside was a wide chamber, filled with faint light. Dust hung in the air like smoke. There were machines around the walls, silent and ancient. And in the center stood a pedestal with a strange device resting on it, a small, round object made of glass and metal. It pulsed, gently, like it was alive. Varric stepped closer. "Careful," he said quietly. As he reached toward the object, a sound filled the chamber. It was not mechanical, it was a voice. Soft, distorted, but clear enough to understand. It spoke in a language that none of them should have known, yet every one of them understood the words. "Welcome back, human." The crew froze. Rinal's scanner beeped wildly. "Commander, that voice, there's no signal source. It's not coming from anywhere." The glass object began to float, glowing brighter. The lights in the chamber flickered, and the machines around them powered on for the first time in millions of years. Symbols appeared on the walls, shifting between alien and human script. Varric's heart pounded. "Who are you?" he demanded. The voice replied, calm and distant. "The ones who shape the stars? You walk in their shadow." Suddenly the floor beneath them shook violently. The ceiling cracked, sending dust raining down. The ship above them sent an urgent signal. Strange energy was spreading across the ruins. "We need to leave now," Rinal shouted as they ran toward the exit. The glowing object followed, floating silently behind them. The ruins seemed to come alive. Lights flickered across the ground, and the symbols on the walls burned with white fire. Outside, the sky turned red, lightning flashing between the clouds without thunder. Varric looked back once, just before boarding the ship. The statue of the human still stood where they had found it, but now its eyes glowed faintly with golden light. For a brief moment, he thought he saw the lips move, whispering something he could not hear, as the ship lifted off. The planet below pulsed once with light, as if something deep beneath the surface had awakened. Varric sat in silence, staring out the window. He didn't believe in ghosts, but something about that planet felt alive, like it had been waiting. Sira broke the silence. "Commander," she said softly, "what do you think it means?" Varric didn't answer right away. He only looked at the glowing orb resting quietly in the ship's cargo hold, its light fading slowly like a heartbeat. Finally, he whispered, "It means we were never first." Outside, the clouds closed again, hiding the ruins beneath their endless silence. But deep below the surface, in the heart of the dead city, a single word began to echo softly through the dark return. The ship Varric drifted silently in orbit above the ruined planet. The crew said nothing as they watched the world spin slowly below them, covered in gray storms and broken cities. The strange glass sphere they had brought aboard rested inside a containment chamber, pulsing gently like a living heart. No one could explain it. Every time it flashed, the ship's lights flickered. The systems gave false readings. Commander Varric stood in the control room, his eyes locked on the energy readings. "It's reacting again," said Rinal, his voice uneasy. "Every few minutes it releases a pulse. It's not random, almost like a signal." Varric frowned. "A signal to who?" Down in the science bay, Sira ran tests on the sphere, but the results made no sense. The material wasn't metal, crystal, or any element they knew. It carried traces of organic energy like something once alive. When she placed her hand near the glass, a faint warmth touched her skin, and she heard a soft hum, almost like a whisper. She quickly stepped back. "Did anyone else hear that?" she asked. The other scientist, Dr. Nerev, shook his head. "Hear what?" Sira looked again at the sphere. It said something. I swear it said my name. The lights flickered again. A soft vibration moved through the floor. In the command deck, alarms began to flash red. Commander Rinal said sharply, "We're receiving a transmission." "From who?" Varric asked. Rinal hesitated. "It's from us. The signal is coming from inside our own ship." "Ah!" The crew exchanged nervous looks. Varric leaned closer. "Play it." The speakers came alive with static, and through the noise came a voice broken, low, but clearly human. "You should not have awakened us." The crew froze. Sira felt her chest tighten. That voice, it sounds human. Arek clenched his fists. Impossible. Humans never reach this part of the galaxy. The voice spoke again, this time clearer. You walk in the ashes of your makers. The message ended. Silence filled the room. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the ship's lights dimmed completely. Emergency systems flickered on, bathing the corridors in red light. Dr. Narev shouted through the comms commander. The sphere, it's active. Varric and his team rushed to the lower deck. The sphere was now floating inside the containment chamber, glowing brighter than ever. Symbols appeared around it, spinning like code, some alien, some human. The ship's computers tried to translate but failed. Then the main screen displayed a strange Imaja set of star maps. They were old, incomplete, showing constellations that no longer existed. At the center of the map was a mark, shaped like a human hand. Underneath it, glowing words appeared in both alien and human script. Return what was stolen. Varric stared at it. What does that mean? He whispered. Before anyone could answer, the entire ship trembled violently. The engines shut down on their own, and the navigation system rebooted with new coordinates, ones no one had entered. The destination was an area of space marked in their records as the Forbidden Belt, a region where entire fleets had vanished without a trace. Rinnell's hands moved quickly over the controls. Commander, the ship's not responding. It's flying itself. Varric's voice was cold. Cut the engines manually. Can't. The system's locked, something else is controlling it. Through the viewport. The stars began to shift as the Variks turned sharply toward the darkness of the Forbidden Belt. The sphere pulsed faster, as if guiding them. Sira looked terrified. It's leading us somewhere, she whispered. It wants us to follow. Hours passed, and the crew could only watch as the ship moved through empty space. Outside, the stars grew dimmer, swallowed by a strange black mist. Their scanners could not read anything, no planets, no signals, no life. Only silence. Then something appeared ahead, a faint light, like a single star shining in the void. As they approached, the light grew until it revealed a massive shape hidden in the darkness. It was not a planet. It was a structure larger than any station or ship they had ever seen. Thousands of lights glowed faintly across its surface, like sleeping eyes. The crew watched in awe and fear. Dr. Narev whispered, That's not alien technology. The design, it's human. The ship slowed on its own and stopped in front of the giant structure. The glowing sphere floated from the containment chamber, drifting gently toward the front window. It pulsed once, and a signal echoed through space, a deep, powerful tone that shook every metal wall of the ship, and then they heard it. A voice. Deep and calm, speaking in perfect English. You have awakened the memory of the first. Varric's throat went dry. Who are you? The architects of the stars, the voice replied. The ones you called extinct? The crew stared at each other in silence. For generations, the Zelthar Empire had believed they were the first to rise among the stars, the rulers of the galaxy. But the voice that filled the ship spoke with the weight of something ancient, something far older. Suddenly, the massive structure before them began to light up, line by line, like veins awakening with energy. Vast symbols appeared across its surface, glowing with golden fire. Sira pressed her hands against the window. It's waking up, she whispered. A final message appeared on the ship's console. Written in human letters, glowing softly against the dark screen, Welcome home. Children of the borrowed light. Ship trembled again, and then everything went silent. The engines powered down completely. The crew floated in the darkness, staring at the ancient structure that now loomed before them. It was as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Varric whispered softly, almost to himself, If humans built this, then what happened to them? No one answered. The sphere hovered quietly, glowing like a distant memory, and the voice echoed one last time, They never left. The Vorax floated like a ghost beside the colossal structure, surrounded by darkness. No light came from the stars now, only the golden glow of the ancient machine ahead. The air inside the ship felt heavy, as if the weight of time itself pressed down on every breath. Commander Varric stood near the main window, eyes locked on the strange lights moving across the surface of the structure. They shifted like veins, alive and pulsing. Rinnell's voice broke the silence. "Commander, the structure is scanning us. Is it hostile?" Varric asked. Rinnell shook his head. "No energy weapons detected. It's studying us." Soft humming filled the air, low and rhythmic. Then the glowing sphere they had brought from the ruins began to move again. It floated slowly toward the ship's wall and stopped, facing the massive structure outside. Suddenly, the metal around it rippled like water. A bright circle of light formed in midair, growing larger until it filled the whole room. "Stand back," Varric ordered, but the light wasn't attacking. Instead, it shaped itself into an image-tall, ancient hall filled with stone pillars and strange machines. The crew stared in silence as the scene flickered like a memory. Then, in the center of that light, humans appeared. There were hundreds of them, men and women in dark armor. Walking through the same halls the aliens had just explored on the planet, their faces were calm, proud, and tired. One of them spoke, her voice echoing through the chamber. "If you see this message, it means our time has ended. The stars will remember us." Sira stepped closer, eyes wide. "Recorded this millions of years ago," the hologram continued. Another human, an older man with silver eyes, spoke next. "We built the roads of light that carry your ships. We shaped the cores that power your worlds. You call yourselves rulers of the galaxy, but you live inside our creation." The crew fell silent. The air felt cold. Rinnell swallowed hard. "Commander, are they saying humans built the network? The whole travel system?" Varric didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the human faces. There was sadness in their expressions, something deep and heavy, as if they knew their time was ending. Then the image flickered again. The same man spoke once more, but now his tone was darker. "They came from the edge of the void. They were not like us. We tried to fight, but we were already fading. If we fall, we will hide the truth. Only the worthy will find it again." The scene changed to chaos. Explosions shook the ancient hall as human soldiers fired weapons of blue fire. Strange shadow-like creatures swarmed through the corridors, their forms twisting like smoke. The hologram crackled and dimmed, but one final image appeared. A massive human warship, rising into the stars, half destroyed, carrying something glowing deep inside, and then silence. The light vanished and the room was dark once more. For a moment no one spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Sira whispered, they were fighting something. Something not human. Dr. Narev checked the readings. The hologram wasn't just a message, he said quietly. It was a data memory. This entire structure, it's a storage vault. A chamber of memory. Varric's eyes narrowed. A vault for what? Before Narev could reply, the sphere floated higher, glowing stronger. The air shimmered, and the lights around the room began to flicker again. Then a soft, familiar voice echoed through the ship, calm, distant, human. Do you remember us? Every screen on the ship came alive. Images, flash planets, cities, battles, faces. Humans walking across alien worlds, building massive towers, terraforming entire systems. The Varric's crew watched in silence as history unfolded before them. History no one had ever known. Humanity had ruled the stars long before the Zelthar Empire had ever existed. Varric took a slow breath. We've been living in their shadow all this time. Sira turned toward him, her voice trembling. If they were so powerful, why did they disappear? The lights dimmed again. Then, in the center of the room, another hologram appeared, this one not part of the memory, but alive. A human figure, made of light, stood before them. He looked around, studying the aliens with calm, curious eyes. His voice was deep, carrying a strange sadness. You are not the ones who built the stars, but you carry their blood in thought and in fire. The crew stepped back, terrified. Who are you? Varric demanded. The hologram smiled faintly. I am the echo of those who came before, the guardian of the chamber. You opened what was meant to remain sealed. The figure turned toward the window, looking at the massive structure outside. Your kind claimed the stars, it said softly, but they were never yours. As the words faded, the ship shook violently. The stars outside shifted, replaced by a whirl of light and shadow. The crew cried out as gravity twisted for a moment, then settled again. When they looked out, the massive structure was gone. Only darkness remained. Varric pressed a hand to the glass. Where are we? Renell checked the sensors, his face pale. Commander, we're not in known space anymore. There are no readings. No stars? Nothing. Then the human voice returned, closer now, almost whispering in their ears. You open the memory. Now you will see the truth. The glowing sphere in the chamber flared with light. The crew shielded their eyes as the brightness filled every corner of the ship. And then, in that endless light, Varric saw something shapes. Massive and ancient, rising from the dark, like sleeping giants waking after eons of silence. A single thought filled his mind, heavy and cold. Humans never vanished. They waited, and then everything went dark. Darkness surrounded the Varex. There were no stars, no planets, no sense of direction, only a black void stretching endlessly in every direction. The crew sat in silence, their faces pale under the faint red emergency lights. The air felt thicker here, like they were breathing inside a dream. Commander Varric stood near the central console, his eyes fixed on the flickering screens. Every system was down except for life support. No signal came through, not even static. It was as if the universe itself had vanished around them. Rinnell's voice broke the silence. Commander, navigation's dead. It's not malfunction, it's like the stars themselves were erased. Varric didn't answer. His gaze drifted toward the glowing sphere still floating quietly above the control table. It had not moved since the light engulfed them, but now it pulsed slowly. Like a heartbeat echoing through the ship, Syrah's voice trembled. We shouldn't have touched it. It's leading us somewhere. Varric looked at her. It's too late to turn back. Then, without warning, the ship's main screen flickered to life. A series of symbols appeared, some alien, some human, and began to form words. Memory unlocked. Sequence initiated. Dr. Narev leaned forward. Commander, that message, it's not from our system. It's coming from inside the ship. Renell shook his head. But how? We isolated the sphere. Before anyone could respond, the ship's engines roared to life on their own. The Varex lurched forward, speeding through the void as if pulled by invisible hands. The crew held on to their stations, shouting over the noise. Where are we going? Syrah yelled. Varric gritted his teeth. Wherever it wants us to. Outside, light began to break through the darkness, thin, golden lines spreading across the void, like cracks in glass. One by one, stars appeared again, forming strange patterns the crew didn't recognize. Then, ahead of them, a structure materialized, an enormous ring of light spinning slowly. Like a gate between worlds, Renell whispered. That looks human, Arik nodded. It's a portal. The sphere pulsed once, brighter than before, and the ship accelerated straight toward the gate. Alarms blared, but there was no time to react. The Varex passed through the ring, swallowed by a blinding flash of light. When the glow faded, the crew found themselves above a planet. It was beautiful blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling gently. But something was strange. The continents were unfamiliar, shaped differently than any mapped world. There were no city lights, no stations, no signs of life. Syrah whispered, Commander, is that Earth? Varric frowned. Impossible. Earth is light years away. But the readings were clear, the atmospheric data, the gravity. Even the magnetic field was almost identical to Earth. Almost the ship descended slowly through the clouds, guided by an unseen force. Below them stretched massive landscapes filled with ruins, towers, bridges, monuments, covered in vines and moss, long forgotten. Then they saw it, a giant symbol carved into the land, visible even from orbit. It was the same human hand they had seen before in the holograms. The voice returned deep, calm, and ancient. You followed the signal. You have reached the cradle. The crew froze. The sound didn't come through speakers. It echoed directly inside their minds. Sierra clutched her head. "It's inside us," she cried. Varric stood still. "No, it's communicating. Differently." The voice continued. "The galaxy you know was built on our bones. You have forgotten your makers." As the voice spoke, the planet's surface began to change. The ruins glowed faintly, then brightly, forming massive patterns of light across the land. The crew watched in awe as entire mountain ranges lit up, revealing enormous metallic structures buried beneath. "The planet was waking up," Dr. Nerev whispered, "Commander. These energy readings are off the scale. Whatever this world is, it's alive," Renell added quietly. "It's responding to the sphere." The sphere suddenly floated higher, glowing fiercely. The ship's sensors activated by themselves, projecting a map of the galaxy in midair. Thousands of small points lit up planets, moons, stations, and then one by one they turned gold. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost mournful. "They took what was ours. They built their empires on our silence. But the stars remember." Varric stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked aloud. "What do you want from us?" The answer came, heavy and slow, to awaken what sleeps. The ground below split open. Massive structures rose from beneath the soil, towering spires, metallic giants shaped like human hands, reaching toward the sky. Energy pulsed between them, forming rivers of light that spread across the planet like veins. Sierra whispered in awe. "It's a machine." Narev shook his head. "Not a machine. A mind." The ship's systems flashed red. Power surged through every console. "Commander?" Renell shouted. "Something's linking with our core systems. It's overriding everything." The main screen displayed a new message. Protocol. Rebirth. Designation. Humanity. Varric's pulse raced. "Cut the connection." "I can't," Renell shouted back. "It's rewriting our code." Then, for a moment, all sounds stopped. The crew stared at the screen, frozen. And then slowly letters began to form again. "You have served well, children of the borrowed flame. Now watch and remember who came before you." Outside, the planet erupted with light. From every ruin, from every valley and ocean, beams of golden energy rose into the sky. They joined together, forming an enormous symbol visible from orbit, the mark of humanity. The voice whispered once more, soft but clear. "The awakening has begun." The Vorax shook violently as waves of energy burst from the planet's surface. Varric fell to his knees, shielding his eyes from the light. Through the chaos, he could barely hear Sierra's trembling voice, "Commander." "Look." He looked up and saw shapes forming in the light above the planet. Colossal ships, sleek and silver, drifting out from hidden places in orbit. They were human designs, ancient, majestic, and alive. Varric whispered, barely audible, "They're returning." And then, as the light faded and silence filled the cabin, the last message echoed through the darkness. "The first empire rises again." The stars burned faintly above the silent planet. The Virex drifted through the upper atmosphere, its hull glowing in the reflection of the golden light still spreading across the world below. The energy pulse from the awakening had finally faded, but the crew was far from calm. Every sensor on the ship continued to detect strange signals movement in the void around them. Commander Varric stood by the main viewport, its reflection staring back at him against the black glass. His crew was tense, whispering softly as they checked the readings again and again, searching for something they couldn't name. Renell turned from his console, voice tight. "Commander, I think we're not alone up here." Varric's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Renell adjusted the scanner. "I'm picking up hundreds of energy signatures. They're massive, all around us, but they're cold, like they've been dead for centuries." Sierra leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe they're ruins, like the ones on the planet." But before anyone could answer, the lights outside the window shifted. The blackness ahead seemed to ripple like water, and then, from the shadows, Enormous shapes began to appear. At first, they looked like dark mountains suspended in space. But as the ship moved closer, their outlines became clear. They were ships. Hundreds of them. Some the size of cities, others shaped like giant wings or swords. Every one of them was silent, floating without power, covered in dust and debris. Sira gasped softly. "It's a fleet." Dr. Narev nodded slowly, his voice shaking. "A human fleet." Varric felt his throat tighten. The alien empire's history had no record of this. There was no mention of a human starfleet, no trace of an ancient war in any archive. Yet here it was, an entire armada, drifting like ghosts in the void. The Virics moved carefully between the colossal ships. Some were cracked open, their hulls torn apart by battle. Others were perfectly preserved, frozen as if time itself had stopped for them. The names of the ships glowed faintly on their sides. Written in an old human language, Sol Invictus? Echo of Dawn, Vigilant Horizon, Sarah whispered. "They look like they're waiting." Suddenly a faint pulse ran through the void. The sphere on the Vorex's bridge began to glow again, brighter than before. Its light reached out like a thread of energy, touching one of the largest ships nearby. The ancient vessel's hull lit up, golden veins running across its surface. Then another ship awakened, and another, until the entire fleet shimmered with light. Renell shouted, "Commander, we're detecting power surges across all vessels. They're coming online." Varric could only watch in silence. The dark fleet that had slept for millions of years was waking up around them. One by one, the massive engines ignited, their soft blue fire spreading across the black void. The hum of energy filled the air, vibrating through the Virex's hull. Then came the voice. Calm, deep, human. You have walked in the path of the Makers. The crew froze. The voice echoed not through the speakers, but inside their minds, clear and powerful. "We see you, children of the lesser light. You are not the first to rule these stars." Varric stepped forward, his voice steady but heavy. "Who are you?" "We are what remains. The guardians of memory, the architects of the first dawn." The voice grew softer, almost sorrowful. "You have awakened what should have never slept." On the main screen, a colossal figure appeared, a ship so large it filled the entire view. Its design was beyond anything the aliens had ever seen, elegant, ancient, and alive. Symbols of gold ran along its body, forming a human face carved into its central core. Sira's voice trembled. "Is that a living ship?" Dr. Narev whispered, "It's more than that. It's conscious." The massive vessel turned slightly, as if gazing at them. "You seek to know what was lost," it said. "Then you shall see." Without warning, beams of light shot from the ship. Connecting to the Varics, the crew cried out as their screens filled with a flood of images, visions of the past. They saw humans standing on alien worlds, building cities of light. They saw fleets crossing the stars, peaceful yet powerful. Then came the war darkness rising from the edge of space, swallowing planets, burning systems. Humanity fought back, sacrificing everything. The great fleet had vanished, not in defeat but in silence. Hiding until the time was right, the vision ended as suddenly as it began. The Varics' systems flickered, struggling under the energy surge. Varric gasped for air, his mind spinning with what he had seen. "They didn't die," he whispered. "They hid." The human voice returned, cold now, almost judging. "And now you stand upon their ashes, claiming their throne." Renell looked at the commander. "It's talking about the Empire." Varric nodded slowly. "We built our worlds on their ruins." Outside, the fleet moved into formation, thousands of ships aligning perfectly. Their lights pulsed in rhythm with the glowing sphere aboard the Vorex. The stars themselves seemed to bend as their engines powered up. "You awoke the memory," the voice said. "Now, the galaxy will remember who truly ruled it." A low rumble filled the air, and the Varics' sensors went wild. Energy readings beyond comprehension flooded the system. Every ship in the Ghost Fleet turned its focus toward the center of the void, where a golden gate of light was forming. Sierra whispered. What are they doing? The voice replied softly, They are returning home. The gate expanded, its light filling every shadow. Varric shielded his eyes as the brilliance consumed the stars. And in that moment, he heard one final whisper, calm, human, proud. The age of silence ends. When the light faded, the ghost fleet was gone. Only the Varrics remained, drifting alone in the empty void. Renel turned slowly toward the commander. Where did they go? Varric looked out at the dark horizon, his voice low. Not where. When. Alive like a human heartbeat echoing across time. The void was silent again. The Varrics floated where the ghost fleet had vanished, surrounded by nothing but darkness and the faint hum of her own systems. The crew was quiet, too quiet. Every face carried the same mixture of fear and wonder. They had seen something beyond imagination. Something that changed everything they knew about history, about power, about life itself. Commander Varric stood near the bridge window. Staring at the place where the Golden Gate had opened, he could still feel the vibration of its energy inside his chest. It was like a distant heartbeat, steady, ancient, alive. Renel broke the silence. Commander, long-range scans are back online. But he hesitated. The stars aren't where they're supposed to be. Varric frowned. What do you mean? The constellations, everything shifted. We're either in another part of the galaxy, or Renel's voice trailed off. Or another time. No one spoke. The realization hung heavy in the air. Sierra stepped closer to the console. The human fleet said they were returning home. What if they didn't just travel through space? What if they went through time? Dr. Narev leaned forward, eyes wide. If that gate was a temporal breach, they could have gone back to the age before their fall. Varric's jaw tightened. Then history's about to change. Before anyone could respond, the ship's alarms began to sound. The sphere, the same golden artifact that had led them here, was glowing again. Its light pulsed faster this time, like a warning. The air around it vibrated, and faint whispers filled the bridge. Voices, human voices, echoing from nowhere. The gate has opened. The Makers return. Balance must be restored. The lights dimmed, and the holographic human appeared once again, the same figure that had spoken to them before. But this time, his eyes burned with a golden fire. You should not have followed, he said. Varric stepped forward. We didn't follow. We were brought here. The hologram studied him. The galaxy, you know, is built upon the silence we left behind. You awoke us before our time. The balance of creation has been disturbed. Renel frowned. If you've built the stars, then why hide from your own creation? Why vanish? The hologram's face softened. We didn't vanish. We sealed ourselves away when the Voidborn came, the darkness that eats thought and light alike. We fought them until the stars bled. And when we could not win, we chose to sleep, leaving behind only echoes. Sierra whispered, the ruins, the memories, everything we found, it was all part of your plan. Oh, the hologram nodded. So that one day when the darkness stirs again, someone might awaken us. Varric's voice was low, and we did. The hologram looked toward the window where faint ripples of light were beginning to appear across the void. Then the darkness will follow. You have opened the path, not only for us, but for them. Suddenly, the Varrics shook violently. The hull groaned as pressure waves rippled through the ship. The view outside the window changed, stars flickered and vanished, replaced by a swirling black mass spreading like ink through space. Renel shouted, Commander, something's coming through. The readings are off the scale. From the depths of the black mist, a shape emerged. Enormous, silent, wrong. It looked like a ship, but its surface moved like liquid shadow, constantly shifting. Tendrils of darkness extended from it, absorbing the light around it. Every sensor on the Varrics began to fail, one by one. Dr. Narev's voice trembled. That must be them. The Voidborn. The hologram turned to Varric, its voice suddenly sharp. The Makers must return fully, or all life will fall to the void. Varek clenched his fists. Then how do we bring them back? The hologram raised its hand toward the glowing sphere. The heart you carry is the key. It contains the last link to our kind, the beacon that awakens the sleepers. But to activate it, you must go where the first light was born. Sira frowned. The first light. You mean soul? The hologram said simply. The cradle of humanity. Before they could respond, the dark shape outside began to move. It turned toward them, a single red glow igniting deep within it like an eye. The shadow twisted and lunged forward. Evasive maneuvers. Varek shouted. The Varek spun violently, engines flaring as the shadow ship fired streams of black energy that tore through the vacuum like lightning. One blast struck their shields, sending a shock through the entire vessel. Alarms screamed. Panels exploded. We can't take another hit. Renell yelled. The hologram raised its voice above the chaos. Go to Sol. Only there can the signal be completed. Only there will the Makers rise again. The sphere flared bright gold, projecting coordinates onto the main screen, a point deep in the center of the galaxy. Lost to time and myth set the course. Varek commanded. Rinal's hands flew across the controls. Engaging hyperdrive now? The stars stretched into lines of light as the Vareks leapt into the void, fleeing from the encroaching darkness. Behind them, the shadow ship roared, chasing through space like a living storm. Inside the ship, the sphere pulsed faster, each beat echoing like a human heartbeat. The crew held on as the ship tore through the fabric of light and time itself. Sira whispered, her voice trembling, if we fail, there won't be a galaxy left to save. Varek looked ahead, eyes fixed on the golden coordinates glowing on the screen. We won't fail, he said, because they're not just myths anymore. It's far behind them, in the endless black. The first of the Voidborns spread its wings, vast, endless, hungering for the light of creation itself. The War of Ages was about to begin again. The Vareks tore through hyperspace like a blade of fire. Every second felt longer than the last as the ship neared its destination, the coordinates that the ancient hologram had called Sol, the birthplace of humanity. Outside, streaks of light rippled across the void, bending and twisting as if the universe itself resisted their passage. Commander. Varek gripped the edge of the command console. The crew around him worked in silence, each one pale and exhausted. No one spoke of what chased them, the dark storm that had once been a fleet of shadows, the Voidborn. It was still out there, following them across dimensions, feeding on their trail. Status? Varek asked. Rinal's voice was hoarse. Engines holding at 70%. But whatever's behind us, it's moving faster. It's like it's learning. Sira turned from the navigation panel, her eyes wide. Commander, we're approaching Sol. Everyone looked up at the main screen. The light ahead shifted from the blur of hyperspace to the clear, quiet stillness of normal space. A star came into view, ancient, fading, yet still burning bright. Around it, fragments of shattered worlds and dying satellites floated like a graveyard, Dr. Narev whispered. The cradle of humanity. This is all that's left? The Vireks drifted closer. They passed what once might have been a moon, cracked in half and hollow inside. In the distance, dark planet shimmered with faint light, faint remnants of cities, buried under dust and ruin. Sira's voice broke the silence. So much for the birthplace of the gods. Before anyone could respond, the sphere in the center of the bridge began to glow, again brighter than ever before. The golden light spread across the walls, and then a deep, resonant hum filled the ship. The voice of the holographic human returned, calm and clear. You have come to the end and the beginning. The first son remembers. Renell frowned. What's it doing? The beacon is activating, the hologram said. The sleepers will hear the call. Outside, the dying star began to pulse slowly at first, then faster. Golden waves of light rippled outward, spreading across the system. The energy readings on the Vorek spiked. Commander. Sira shouted, the starites responding to the sphere. Varek's eyes widened. It's alive. Then, from deep beneath the planet's surface, a rumble began. The crew watched as the ground split apart, revealing metallic structures rising from the crust of massive rings of light, connecting and spinning like gears of a forgotten machine. Dr. Narev whispered, "It's not just a planet. It's a forge." The rings aligned perfectly around the star, and the light grew so intense that the ship's shields flared white. The hologram spoke again, its voice both sorrowful and proud. The Makers return through light. Their bodies were dust, but their will was bound to the sun. The golden star ignited like a supernova, but instead of exploding, it unfolded. The light condensed into shape massive, human-like figures forming from energy itself. Dozens of them, hundreds, titans of light rising out of the solar fire. Their eyes burned like suns, their forms majestic and terrible. Sarah fell to her knees whispering, "They're not myths. They're real." The Varek shook as a deep tremor rippled through space. Behind them, the black wave of the Voidborn finally arrived. It poured into the system like liquid shadow, swallowing the light as it came. The star dimmed. The golden titans turned toward it, their faces solemn. The hologram's voice echoed one last time. "They have awakened, but their power comes with a price." Varek looked out at the horizon. What price? They must burn themselves to keep the stars alive. The first of the Voidborn struck. A shadowed mass as large as a planet collided with one of the titans, devouring it in a storm of darkness. The others raised their arms, releasing waves of golden fire that ripped through the void, burning the shadows into ash. The space around the Varek shook as gravity itself bent from the power of their clash. Renel shouted over the chaos, "Commander, the energy levels, they're tearing the system apart." "Hold position," Varek ordered. "We can't leave now." Outside, the battle raged. Light against darkness. Creation against the void. The Makers fought with silent fury, their bodies fading one by one as the star burned brighter. The shadows screamed a sound that wasn't sound at all, but pure terror. And then, through the storm, one of the golden titans turned its gaze toward the Virax. Its face was calm, almost human. "You are the witness," it said. "Remember what we were?" Surge of energy shot toward the ship, flooding every system with light. The sphere absorbed it, pulsing violently before going still. The Titan lowered its hand and vanished into the brilliance of the star. The Voidborn began to break apart, retreating, howling as the light consumed them. The final burst from the star illuminated the entire sky, and then silence. When the light faded, the golden titans were gone. The Shadow Fleet had vanished too. Only the fading star remained, calm and quiet once more. The Virex floated among the debris, battered but alive. Sparks flickered across the consoles. Sira slowly stood, her face pale and wet with tears. "They're gone," she whispered. Dr. Narev nodded. "They sacrificed themselves again. To save everything." Renel exhaled. "What now?" Varek looked down at the sphere. It was still glowing, but softly now, like a heartbeat. He placed his hand on it. "Now we carry their memory." Outside the window, the star shimmered faintly. The light formed a brief, golden symbol, two hands, joined together before fading forever. The Virex turned slowly away from the ruins of Sol, as the engines hummed and the stars stretched into streaks once more. Varek whispered into the quiet, "They claimed the galaxy, but it was never theirs to begin with." The Virex disappeared into the light of the stars, carrying with it the last story of humanity, the promise that one day the Makers might rise again. The end.